Cancer can be defined as a disease that causes tumors to grow and inhibit bodily function by taking over systems of the body. Cancer, more specifically, is unregulated cell growth that results in tumors that can metastasize and move throughout the body. Breast cancer is located to the tissue of the breast and can be found in both males and females. Cancer does not seem to have a definite origin. Sometimes it can be traced back to environmental exposure, and other times it has to do with the genetics of the person. In this video, we will talk about different risk factors that potentially could increase the risk of cancer in general, and more specifically, breast cancer. There seem to be a plethora of different trends when it comes to talking about ethnicity as a risk factor for cancer. There are some cancers that show higher risk in Hispanic populations, while others seem to show high risk in those of European descent. However, the general trend is that the African American population seems to be most at risk for breast, ovarian, stomach, and colorectal cancers. We are not really sure why this is the case. For breast cancer, white women are more likely to develop breast cancer as compared to Hispanic and Asian women. In African American women, there is a greater chance of developing aggressive and more advanced stages of breast cancer and are in turn more likely to die from it. According to the Mayo Clinic, only a small percentage of cancers are hereditary, meaning they can be passed from generation to generation. So just because someone in your family has cancer does not mean that you are surely going to get it. There are certain cancers that have genetic predisposition, but like I said, it's not a sure indication that you will get cancer. In fact, most cancers are caused by a combination of factors, meaning that having the gene alone is not sufficient for a cancer diagnosis. There are also genetic tests available that may tell you whether you are at risk for cancer and for which cancers have the highest risk based on your genetics. Breast cancer is one of those cancers that is tied to a gene, or rather a couple of genes. These genes are called BRCA1 and BRCA2, and they produce tumor-suppressing proteins which help repair cell DNA and play a role in maintaining the stability of cell genetics. When these genes become mutated and therefore compromised, the cell cannot repair mutations and therefore are at greater risks of forming tumors. Like most other things, cells get worn out as they age, meaning the mechanisms that worked really well when the cells were young start to decline as the person ages. What this means more specifically is the process of copying DNA and the cell dividing are more likely to have mistakes in them the older the person is, because their cells have been doing it for a very long time. It also takes time for these mistakes to accumulate and result in unregulated cell growth and metastasis. So as time goes on and these mistakes and mutations start to build up, the chances of cancer also goes up. That being said, age is not always a predictor of cancer. Cancer can happen at any age. There just seems to be a positively correlated trend between age and cases of cancer. Because breast tissue does not really start to develop until puberty and the teenage years, there aren't really cases of breast cancer in children. Like with most other cancers, it takes time for the mutations of the BRCA genes to really begin to affect and create tumors in the breast.
Cancer-causing substances, known as carcinogens, are present in many of our environments, whether we know it or not. Exposure to secondhand smoke can be a significant risk factor for cancer, especially if you live with someone who smokes. Chemicals such as asbestos and benzene, which sometimes exist in homes or workplaces, can go largely unnoticed, but also increase your risk of cancer. Many older products have been reformulated as we have learned more about carcinogens and cancer risk factors. Hair dye, for example, used to contain a chemical called aromatic amine, which has been shown to cause cancer in animals. Some studies have linked hair dye use to increased risk of cancer of the blood and bone marrow, but others have produced conflicting results. Next time you go to dye your hair, though, check the ingredients. An unhealthy diet doesn't cause cancer, but a healthy one can help prevent it. Fruits, vegetables, legumes, and whole grains can boost the immune system and are high in antioxidants. Diets high in fat have been indicated in cancer risk, though more research is needed to understand this potential relationship. extra body weight and weight gain are thought to increase the risk of breast cancer for women after menopause. Has someone ever warned you of your risk of developing cancer as you reached for a diet soda? Americans have been highly concerned recently with the risk associated with artificial sweeteners. These sweeteners, however, are regulated by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. According to the National Cancer Institute, sweeteners including aspartame, sucralose, and saccharin do not increase the risk of cancer in humans.
Bad news for all the wild spring breakers out there. Risks of developing cancer from smoking, drinking, and sun exposure have a synergistic effect, multiplying the chances of developing cancer. Alcohol consumption has been linked to increases in rates of liver, mouth, esophagus, and breast cancers. Continuous alcohol consumption often leads to cirrhosis of the liver, a degenerative disease that decreases the liver's effectiveness. Cancer is more likely to occur in cirrhotic livers than non-cirrhotic ones. Living a sedentary lifestyle without enough physical activity has been shown to increase rates of colon, endometrium, breast, lung, and pancreatic cancers. There is a strong correlation between physical activity and a decrease in cancer of the colon, endometrium, and breast, especially for women after menopause. Women who begin exercising at a young age and continue to receive around 4 hours of exercise per week greatly reduce their risk for breast cancer. So remember, stay active, Tar Heels. Exposure to the sun is a leading cause of skin cancer, especially in light-skinned people. Skin cancer's death rate is much lower than its mortality rate, but one form, malignant melanoma, is often deadly. Although UV light exposure is one of the most common causes of skin cancer, some people are genetically predisposed to be high risk, specifically light-skinned, fair-haired, blue-eyed individuals. Certain levels of vitamin D from UV rays have been shown to decrease rates of several types of cancer. As little as 5 to 10 minutes per week in the sun is sufficient.
The signs of cancer vary widely based on the type, but some of the general signs and symptoms include unexplained weight loss, fever, fatigue, pain, and skin changes. Because cancer is best treated early on in its progression, the American Cancer Society recommends screening for many types of cancer, including breast cancer. Yearly mammograms are recommended starting at age 40, and women are advised to begin regular self-exams in their 20s. Many women recognize the first sign of breast cancer as a lump in the breast or armpit area. Because of the severe risk of breast cancer for women with a family history, some prevention tactics have been developed. As you may have heard, actress Angelina Jolie elected for a preventative double mastectomy last year. Women who have been diagnosed with cancer in one breast may also choose to have the other breast removed, as their risk of developing cancer again is known to be very high. Certain drugs are also prescribed to women, usually those 40 to 50 years old, with a high risk for developing breast cancer. Selective estrogen receptor modulators, or SERMs, can reduce the risk of cancer by blocking the effects of estrogen in the breast tissue.
Currently, there is no cure for cancer. There is not even a treatment that is consistent across all types and stages of cancer. Cancer is a smart disease, not only because it can mutate body cells to evade the immune system, but also because cancer grows and spreads sneakily. Tumors can appear and spread, and you might never show symptoms, or your symptoms may be mistaken for other things before cancer is even considered as an option. Although scientists and researchers are making great strides in the treatment of cancer, they are now able to tailor treatment not only for specific cancer, but also for a specific person's cancer, with better remission rates all around. Science is continually evolving and moving forward, and there are now trials for treatments including tagging the tumor cells and altering the immune system to be able to target them, which could potentially have exciting results for the future of cancer research. Although there is no cure now, there is hope for one in the future.